Well, welcome back to another SoloCast edition of Not Your Mother's Podcast. Now, the reason I'm doing this, I have several more podcasts that we're ready to broadcast, we're ready to put out. Just need to throw an intro on, do a little bit of editing. But there's so much going on. There's so many stories that are breaking right now when it comes to abuse within the independent fundamental Baptist movement. And I gotta say, I'm super, super grateful for every single one of you that sent me a message, whether I've answered you or not. I apologize if I haven't. I promise you I'll get to it. But anytime something's breaking inside of that world of those of us that are survivors and have found our way out, and nothing against anyone who hasn't, but there's so much noise around those things when they happen that I get just an influx of messages, for which I'm not bragging, but I'm very grateful that you guys want this involvement. You want to make sure I'm aware, and I'm certain that you want me to cover this and talk about it. And it's not, I don't think it's because anyone necessarily wants to hear my opinion or that I'm a big deal at all. I just think we need to have this conversation. And not everyone's ready to put up a video that is going to polarize some people, that's going to make some people mad, that's going to lose some friends, that, you know, whatever the case may be, it's going to have some negative repercussions. And I get that. And I'm not saying every single person that sends me a link or something to look at hasn't already posted. A lot of you have. And I'm not condemning you if you haven't. But I just want to say that I feel that is support for the podcast, and I'm super, super grateful for it. Not Your Mother's Podcast was designed for me to talk about things that are important to me. And this is very important to me. There are other things that are important that I'd like to talk about, whether it be marketing or mixed martial arts, and on and on it goes. But again, I do have other podcasts that are ready to go. My apologies to my guests, John and Becca, and maybe one or two more, because we have some waiting. Two Johns. We got John Keister, John Bannister, and Becca Stone. So never fear, we are going to put out your episodes. But this is something that's happening right now, and I've gotten a lot of feedback about it, so I want to talk about it. And it's not just one thing. Today we're going to go over, and I know there's more than three, but today we're going to go over three different things, three different stories that are breaking inside the IFB. We're going to talk about the key players who are involved. I'm going to read you testimonies, as I like to call them, or reports, as you may call them, from victims, and we're going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about that, and we're going to talk. If I can make the time towards the end here, or maybe somewhere in the middle, I want to talk about how does this even happen? Because the things that are happening are, of course, they're just horrific and atrocious and all kinds of other adjectives for just the most awful, vile kinds of things you can think of. But the thing that a lot of people from the outside looking in, or people on the inside that don't want to believe it, a lot of what I hear is, well, that's just so terrible. How can that even be true? Or how could you let that happen? If that's really true and it really happened to you, why would you let it happen? And why wouldn't you tell anyone? And I know we've already covered this, but we're going to cover it again, whether it's today or another day. But why would you wait so long? Or why are you just coming forward now? So I want to get into those conversations, and I understand they're one-sided. It's just me talking to my camera over here. But I want to what's the word I'm looking for that I can't find? I want to foster more conversations. I want you to interact with me, send me a message, or just comment on the podcast or comment on my personal page. I want us to have these conversations because these are very helpful for victims who have yet to come forward, for victims who have already come forward, for people who don't know they're victims yet, and the list goes on and on. But these conversations where every once in a while I'll get someone that's kind of dissenting and has that thought process of, well, why did you wait so long, or how could it even be true, or how do you even know if it was 20 years ago? I want to have those conversations. I don't like it when people leave comments like that, or when people want to confront me about that, but I like having those conversations, and I like it for this reason. There are a lot of people who may not be able to comment, or may not want to comment, or may not want to jump in with their profile picture and their name attached to a comment, but they'll send me a private message, or they're at least watching from a distance. And those of you that are fighting this along with me and coming out and telling our stories, or whatever the case may be when it comes to how you're presenting these facts and you're getting feedback, negative and positive, when you get that negative feedback, I want to beg you, don't let it discourage you, and don't let it overtake you. Don't let it be something that dominates your day. Take some time for yourself. Go for a run. Go to the gym. Spend time with your kids. Don't let it dominate you. But don't be afraid to push back and tell people this is, this is true. This is really happening. And yes, right now, for a lot of people, and in most of these instances, all you have are accusations. But I'm telling you right now, if someone's bringing an accusation against an IFB leader, and an IFB leader needs to take up and run to another state, or an IFB leader won't directly address exactly what happened and how he or she, usually he, is innocent, that's guilt. That's an admission of guilt. It may not be in a court of law, okay, I understand that, but that's absolutely an admission of guilt. So, to get back to what I was saying a moment ago, thank you so much, because everyone that sends a story, everyone that wants to tell me their personal stories, everyone that's sent me a link to a YouTube video or an article on Patheos, I think is how you say it, or the Washington Post, and they're on there, Chicago Tribune, everyone that sent me something for Not Your Mother's Podcast, or just for me to look at, thank you from the bottom of my heart. That really encourages me. It lets me know that there's a lot of support out there for this, for us, for this movement, and I'm happy to be a part of the movement. I'm thrilled. I'm not happy to hear about how awful people have been treated, especially little girls. I'm not happy to know that you women, and in some cases men, have to and I don't mean to diminish the men, because I know there are men out there that have gone through this as well in the IFB. But I'm not happy to hear that you're having to relive all that trauma from your past. I'm sorry. That's terrible. That's awful. But I am thrilled to be a part of helping you tell your story, of helping you put out there the truth, of helping you, if I can in any way, shape, or form, helping you heal, helping you find some relief, helping you find some closure, and helping you in talking to the authorities. I have done it, and I'll continue to do it. When information comes to me, I'm not betraying anyone's trust, but when information comes to me and it's something that I'm familiar with the victim and we have a relationship and it's okay, it's a standard thing for me to talk to the authorities about what's going on, I'm going to do it, and I have. So anyways, all that to say, thank you all so much for your continued support, for every link you sent, for every comment you left, for every time you wanted to butt in because, man, I'm just so burnt up about this. I can't stand that this guy's getting away with this. Whatever it is, however you're helping this movement, thank you. I'm super grateful. So, before I get into today's stories, we're going to look at 3 different stories, like I said earlier, that are breaking. Some of them have been breaking for a month or two. Well, in reality, they've all been breaking for years, right? Because since it's happened, it's been going on. But some of them have only been breaking in the news the last couple months. One of them started 3 or 4 years ago. And then one it started 3 or 4 years ago, but just came to light in the last week. And I've talked to the victim's sister, had lengthy conversations, and they're very happy for me to present this information to you. So we're looking at 3 different locations. The first one is going to be in Mesa, Arizona, and I'll get into all the details, the who's who of that. I do not have victim stories from that yet, but those will be incoming, because this bus driver has been molesting children for 20 years, so I know more stories are coming forward. Then the next one is out east. It's a Chicago Tribune article, and I actually do, it's North Carolina, and I do have victim stories from that as well. And then the last one, of course, is the more recent development with Cameron Giovanelli, the video that he posted, which his new employer, Greg Neal, also posted and then took down. And then after a video that not this one, and after a video that I posted, a public post that I put up with his video, kind of giving a little more insight or my opinions on it, that's now amassed, I think, close to 2,000 views, but it was around 1,000 on Saturday morning, and then Cameron took it down. And I have no doubt, I'm not saying it's because of me, but it's because of you guys, those of you that contributed and are pushing this and letting people know this isn't right, and all the comments that you guys left. Very, very helpful to the victim, of course, and also helpful to the case and letting people know that this is going on and that it's not okay. You can't just stand up and say, look, these accusations are false, and I'm going to have my wife stand next to me and just nod her head the whole time. It's all very, very strange, very weird, and we're going to talk about it. We're absolutely going to talk about that. So we'll go Mesa, North Carolina, and then talking about my good friend Sarah Jackson, and then what's going on with Cameron Giovanelli, who's now in Jacksonville, Florida. guy's moved a lot lately. All right, so we're going to start in Mesa, Arizona. I just want to read you something real quick. Yes, I'm going to have the computer out again. Yes, I'm going to be reading to you again, but I don't think I'll be doing that to you for longer than 3 or 4 minutes at a time. So bear with me, but these are stories that some of you, I'd like for you, if you've already shared these stories with me, please listen as I read through them and kind of give a little bit of commentary to it. And if you don't know these stories, by all means, please don't skip ahead. I want you to listen to these stories, and they're not good. The stories themselves don't give a lot of details. The victims' stories do. And it's, again, this podcast is I'm not going to be cursing on this episode, but I would still call this a very PG-13 episode just because of the content, the nature of the content that I'm going to be sharing with you. And I'm realizing right now that I'm talking really fast. Let me have some more whiskey here. That's probably going to help it slow on down. Give me a second. That'll do. So, I just want to read you a bio from the Valley Baptist Church with a Heart. It's not very original, guys. Out of Mesa, Arizona. And then I want to read you the bio of their pastor first to kind of give you an idea. And if you just go to valleybaptistmesa.org, couldn't afford a .com, I guess. If you just go to that page, you'll get a picture of their pastor. And look, we all want the white picket fence, don't we? And these IFB people really work hard at making that their image. That's how they look, that's how they sound, that's how they appear. And that's not what they are. So, Valley Baptist Church, our pastor, picture of the family, they all look, they look great. They look happy. Pastor Kevin Cowling was born on Kevin Cowling, just want to make sure you heard that, was born on February 21st, 1968 to his parents, Dr. and Mrs. Pete Cowling. He was saved as a 5-year-old boy. Oh, there's an extra picture there they're missing. You guys need to update your website. He attended and graduated from Hyles-Anderson College with a Bachelor's of Science degree in Pastoral Theology in 1990 and a Master's degree in 92. Nice, he got a Master's. From 1990 to 1997, he worked as assistant to the president, of Hyles-Anderson College. In June of 1997, Pastor Cowling was called to be our pastor here at Valley Baptist Church. Since then, Pastor Cowling has led our church to greater horizons, reaching thousands for Christ, transforming lives for God, starting new outreach ministries, and growing to an average attendance of 600, serving the people of our community. I understand that I'm getting really preachy reading this. Sorry, it's the rhetoric, and it makes me do that. Pastor Cowling has been blessed to be able to preach in many pulpits across the country, in churches, colleges, revivals, camps, and schools. Wow, I sound like a pastor again. This is terrible. I'm almost done. Pastor was married to his wife Dawn on August 2nd, 1991. They have 4 children, Ashley, Trent, Trevor, and Trey. And I feel for all of them. All right, so that is the pastor of Valley Baptist Church in Mesa, Arizona, the Church with a Heart. Now I'm going to read you a story from the news, NBC News, NBC Channel 12 in Mesa. It is Arizona. It might be Phoenix. It's Phoenix or Mesa. But NBC 12 News. I'm going to read you a story about one of Kevin Cowling's staff members. Now, they're calling him a volunteer in this report, and that's very important for that church. That helps give them less guilt and less blame. I think you understand that. But he's a staff member. Okay, and they've interviewed, they interviewed people, they didn't interview anyone from the church, which I'm sure they couldn't get a comment, but they interviewed his neighbor, and his neighbor said, and you can find the story, message me, if you want to see the whole story, I'll send it to you, but they interviewed his neighbor, and his neighbor said he was very, very involved with the church, and he was always taking teenagers and young people on trips. He's a bus driver. Not unlike a fellow that some of us know by the name of Sal Greco. Really, the guy looks and sounds a lot like the same person. All right, so I'm going to read this to you. Again, if you've got kids and you're playing this in the background, I hope you're listening to me and you pause it right here. This is just stuff that they shouldn't hear. I don't remember exactly how explicit this is, but please don't let them hear this. I wouldn't want this for them. Church bus driver admits to molesting girls over 20-year period. Court documents revealed that Richard Donnelly, or Brother Donnelly as he was known, laughed as he told investigators the most recent victim had the same name as one of the girls he molested 20 years ago and looked very similar. He said she reminded him of her. These are just the headline, and then I'll get into the whole story. But I've talked to someone who's close to this case, and they said that, people are trying to justify his actions by, well, it's a nervous laugh, or it's, trying to find justification for him laughing. Look, and me and the victim's friend talked about this. There's no justification. Okay, you're talking about molesting children. You can't have a nervous laugh or any kind of, if it's a tick. I don't care, man. It doesn't go. I got a kid. You can't. You just can't. So, Mesa, Arizona, a Valley man is facing molestation and sexual abuse charges after he admitted, according to court documents, to touching a 9-year-old girl last week and molesting 2 other girls younger than 10 years old 20 years ago. According to MCSO, the most recent incident took place on June 30th at the victim's residence in Mesa. A 9-year-old girl reported being touched on her genital area by a person she knew as Brother Donnelly. MCSO later identified the subject as Richard Donnelly, a volunteer bus driver for a local church. I don't know who Kevin's got running PR, but they're doing a damn good job. Oops, said I wouldn't cuss. They're doing a very good job. Okay, they've kept the church's name so far out of the article, and they've made the guy a volunteer. Again, I don't applaud them for doing a good job. I'm very mad at them. But they're working really hard to keep the name of their church and their pastor, Kevin Calling, Valley Baptist Church, out of the news. Court paperwork shows Donnelly initially denied touching the victim, but later admitted doing so. He wrote an apology letter to the victim. By the way, that's a classic move from someone that we all know, that we supported for prepaid legal services for a long time. So just sit on that. You'll figure out who it is. He wrote an apology letter where he also admitted touching her on her breast and between the legs. Donnelly was again interviewed by detectives on Tuesday, July 3rd, where he admitted to touching the victim for his sexual gratification, court documents said. According to the court paperwork, when asked about any other victims, Donnelly admitted to molesting 2 girls younger than 10 years old several times on multiple occasions about 20 years ago. If you're not burning up inside, you're not a human being. Court docs revealed Donnelly laughed, as he told investigators the most recent victim had the same name as one of the girls from 20 years ago and looked very similar. He said she reminded him of her. Investigators obtained a police report from 1995 which accused Donnelly of similar acts of child molestation. He was not charged. I think that's the most telling part of this article. MCSO is looking for other possible victims in relation to Donnelly. Again, I want to repeat something for you so you know exactly who this is. I understand, I don't have the victims' names, and I don't know if I'd put them out there if I did, especially the more recent victims. But Valley Baptist Church in Mesa, Arizona, and Pastor Kevin Calling are all omitted. They're not added to that news article. Now, I'm not saying there aren't other articles out there where he's not named and that church isn't named. That may very well be the case, but right now, this is the only article I was able to find. So just put those together. I'm not saying that Kevin Calling did the deed, but he was in charge and he let this guy continue. And I don't know, it does say here in the church bio that Kevin didn't get there till 97, I believe. Let me look at that one more time. Yeah, in June of 97. So that would have been 2 years after the accusations happened with this bus driver, and the bus driver may not have been there at that time. But it is your job as look, you can call a pastor what you want to call a pastor. The guy's the CEO of the church, okay? There's especially in the IFB. He's better than the CEO. He's the founder and whatever. Like, he's the top dog of the church. Yes, I get deacon boards and all that jazz. What he says goes. Okay, so at your job as the head of the church is absolutely to vet people that are carting around your children and your teenagers on a weekly, if not more than once a week basis. And again, like I said, the neighbor had said, and you can see the article for yourself, and she's interviewed in person on video. The neighbor said he was consistently involved with his church. He was always telling them how he was taking children on activities. So, as the pastor, there's blame that does fall on you for that, Kevin. There's absolutely blame that falls on you for letting this man do that to those children. And you can't just tell me he's been doing this for 20 years. and you're only telling me about 3 little girls? It's way more than that. It's way more than that. So that's the first story we have, and I don't have details as far as like testimonies from these women, now women and then the girls, but I'm sure more things are going to come forward. I'm absolutely positive more victims are going to come forward. And let me talk to that real quick. I know I'll talk to it again, but look, if you know a victim and they haven't come forward, look, or you are a victim and you haven't come forward, look, we get it. We get it. I really get it. I'm not a victim of these types of things, and I'm not trying to distance myself from that because I'm involved with a lot of people who are, and I love them dearly, and I do everything I can in my power to help them. But here's the thing. If you are a victim, coming out of that, I understand, is a painful process. I don't understand from personal experience. I would never say that. But I do understand from family members and from very close friends who have come out about these sorts of things. It's painful, and I know all the reasons why it's painful, but look, we're here for you, and we want to help you. And even if, and because in many cases, I know, and if you're a victim, you know, you don't even have family that are going to help you because they're still involved in the cult. We get that. There's a literal support network of people that stand ready to help you at a moment's notice. We are just, and it's not just me, it's a lot of women, because I understand you, some of you may not be comfortable talking to a man, or if you're a man, you would be, or if you're a woman, you would be as well. I don't know how you would feel about that. But if you are a victim, we understand how hard it is. It's not just me, there are actual victims that also want to talk to you and understand how difficult this is to come forward with this information, whether you're a child, a teenager, an adult, whatever age you are, wherever you are on that spectrum of age, we get it, and we know how difficult it is, and we want to help you. And look, we're the last people in the world that are going to say, look, get over it, you're going to be fine, stop being a, what do they call them, a snowflake or a crybaby. That's, no. That's not where we're at at all. Where we're at is we want to help you. We want to help you tell your story if you're ready. If you're not ready, but you just want to share with someone, reach out to the podcast, reach out to me, reach out to my mother. If you know who I am, there's a good chance you know who my mother is. Reach out to any one of those 3 people or entities, and we will, if you're not comfortable talking to us, we'll connect you with someone that you will be comfortable talking with. But if you have a story to tell, and by the way, let me call back to months ago when I posted a video, I think late in 2017, and asked many of you for your stories. Your stories have not fallen by the wayside. They're in a doc. I'm ready to share them. I am trying to cover what's going on right now because we want to continue our momentum, but rest assured your stories are going to be shared, and I can't wait for people to hear. Again, it's not fun or even funny for the most part, sordid details, and it's not that I can't wait for people to hear how bad it is, but I can't wait for people to understand that this stuff happened in the past. There's a lot of power for those of you that are willing to come forward, and we're not stopping. We're going to keep telling these stories until people start listening, and prosecutors start doing their job, and police chiefs and sheriff's departments start doing their job, and people are brought to justice and locked up, and whatever else needs to be done to them is done to them. So that's our first story out of Mesa, Arizona, and that story is about the church pastored by Kevin Cowling, the Valley Baptist Church with a Heart in Mesa, Arizona. I just want to make sure that I get that name out there and solidified along with this story, because that is absolutely who's associated with this. So moving on, the next story comes from a close friend of mine. His wife shared this information with me, and I do have permission to share names, but at this point I'm not looking to do that. All I want you to do is hear the story, what's going on, and then I'm going to give you a few different testimonies from people that were affected by this man at this church in North Carolina. Give me a moment while I chug on this. And this story started, of course, when he perpetrated his act of criminality, but the victim just has been telling her story for a year or two, a few years possibly now, one of the victims, and now there are more victims coming forward, and the church can't hide it anymore. And it's the best of times and the worst of times to be a victim for these people, because they're having to relive all this trauma. They're having to deal with people giving pushback for them telling their story. They're having to deal with people telling them, how could this be true? And I went through all those things earlier, but it's also the best of times because they're able to freely tell their story, and they're able to understand that there's people like me and a lot of you out there that want to support them and want to help them throughout this process. So give me a moment. I'm going to have another drink. And we're going to talk about this church. So, man accused of child sex offenses at North Carolina church. This is from the Chicago Tribune. Okay, I'm not pulling this from some dinky website, some .org. Let's make sure that's a .com. It is ChicagoTribune.com. A North Carolina Sheriff's Office has accused a man of committing multiple child sex offenses at the church where he was a Sunday school teacher. Give me a moment. I need to swipe over to see what the name of that church is because I do have that down. This is Firstborn Baptist Church. One more time. That's Firstborn Baptist Church and Gateway Christian School. Firstborn Baptist Church and Gateway Christian School. It frustrates me how, and again, I may read further and see the names, but it frustrates me that often these are left out. And look, if you, I know I've got people on my friends list that do the news for a living, for lack of a better term. Well, there's not lack, you know what it is, your media, whatever you may call yourselves, but it does frustrate me that it is missing in a lot of these reports. I'm looking through this one now, and it does show Firstborn Baptist Church, so that's good. But it does frustrate me often that they want to, local area church or whatever. Like, no, it's this exact church. Okay, the Johnson County Sheriff's Office told news outlets multiple charges were filed against 34-year-old Jonathan Young of Benson, including first-degree rape of a child and indecent liberties with a child. WRAL-TV in Raleigh reports Young was a Sunday school teacher at Firstborn Baptist Church in Benson. Sheriff's Office Captain Jeff Caldwell said the offenses were first reported in 2014. I want to pause just for a moment. I want to talk to those of you out there that have been victimized, and I want you to know that it does take time. Don't let that discourage you. Please, I beg you. Don't let that discourage you from coming forward. I'm not saying every single victim has been victimized a long, long time ago, but most of these stories are from victims. Now, this was brought forward in 2014, but it happened a long time before that. So a lot of the victims that we're seeing come forward now, what happened with them happened quite some time ago. So the last thing that I would want to do is berate you for waiting as long as you have. You have your reasons. You absolutely have your reasons, and you absolutely have your right to wait as long as you need to until you can, and this isn't a dig at you, but until your mental capacity is at the place where you say, okay, I am mentally ready for this. And to be honest, from not my personal experience, but dealing with a lot of friends that have come forward with these sorts of things, sometimes you just never will be mentally or emotionally prepared for it. That's what we're here for. We're here to bolster you and help you through this process. So when I read this and I say 2014, a victim came forward, and now it's 2018 that something's being done, or late 2017, I get how that's very disparaging. But here's something that you should know, and I do believe this article covers it, or I will cover it in the statements from some of the victims. The reason it took that long is because we only had one victim that came forward. Even if the statute of limitations is up in the state where you're at, even if you know you're going to face a lot of persecution, even if you know that you're going to lose some friends from this, I'm telling you, when you come forward and you name your perpetrator's name, that gives power to a lot of people. But to me, my opinion, most importantly, it gives a lot of power to who? The other victims that are out there. If you were victimized, you know good and well, it's not just you. And I'm not belittling what happened to you. I'm just saying there is, in my opinion, a 99.99999% chance that there are more victims. It's not just you. And again, not belittling what happened to you, just saying there's more people that want to stand with you and tell their story. They're just waiting for you to tell your story. They're just waiting for you, and they don't know they're waiting for you, right? They just know that they're not the only ones, but they don't really want to be the one to just probably how you feel too. I know I'm not the only one, but man, I don't want to be the first one that comes out about this. It's embarrassing, or and it is. I'm not diminishing that, but it's difficult. I'm not saying it's not difficult. That you'll never hear me say that, but I just want to encourage those of you that are victims that are on the cusp of saying something, or have never really thought about it, but know what happened to you, and just feel like people won't believe me. We will believe you. I promise you, we will believe you. And it's not just me. I know I'm just one guy on a podcast talking to himself, basically here in his house, but studio, my podcast studio. But I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of us that will believe you, and we want to hear your story, and we want to share it, and we want to spread it. So I'll continue with this. But go back, so first reported in 2010, but go back years. One victim, who is now 19, told investigators she was assaulted between the age of 7 and 15. Caldwell said an investigation is continuing. And by the way, I want to say something, this will be a quick break, but what we're used to, especially in IFB culture, is a big blow up, right? Like, man, did you hear about so-and-so? And then they're restored in the Lord, right? They're they fell and they had a moment of weakness and they sinned, but, God's restored them, and by the way, they never get carted off to prison, then never gets taken to the authorities, or the victim is just so pounded with, they're just assaulted with all kinds of terrible things that they give up, for rightfully so. They give up and they say, look, I told my story, I don't want anything to do with this anymore. They move away, they do whatever they got to do to get away from this, and then the man, the woman, whoever continues perpetrating these crimes. I know we're used to that being the status quo. Rest assured, in all 3 of these cases, we're in touch with the proper parties, and that is not what's going on. Please know that. These investigations are ongoing. These people are going to be brought to justice, and in a couple cases they're behind bars right now. We're going to continue. We're going to keep moving forward, and we're going to bring these guys to justice, and some of them already have been, and some of them it's just a process, and we're getting there. Anyways, Young is jailed on a $1 million bond. It is not known if he has an attorney, and that's the end of that story. I know that I made that one a lot longer than it had to be. We're going to speak to a few other things in the case with Sarah Jackson and Cameron Giovanelli. And so if you're familiar with me, if you're friends with me, you possibly saw recently that I shared a video on my Facebook page. I downloaded a video that Cameron posted a few days ago. I downloaded it for a reason, and we all know why now, especially. It has been deleted. We knew it would get deleted, but now for sure it is deleted. Greg Neal posted it, his new boss, and Cameron posted it, and it's a video of him. Of course, it's a video of him leading with, "Hey, the allegations are false," which is really, that's gonna hurt him in court. He's headed for court, by the way. Whether he wants to hear it or not, he's gonna hear some of this podcast. I guarantee you. He's headed for court. So for those of you, if there's anyone, I can't imagine, well, we had a couple, Scott Nutter and a couple other people. If there's any of you that are big supporters of the IFB and you're checking out this podcast, the guy's headed for court, and he's not the only one, and he will be behind bars. It's a matter of, and I know a lot of this social media, right? A lot of us like to brag and posture and all that. I get it. That's not what I'm doing, guys. The guy's headed for court, and he's going to get there, and he's going to end up behind bars. He's going to be where Jack Scott is. Well, not entirely. Possibly. No, I don't know. We'll see what his crimes end up at. But Jackson federal pen is what I'm saying, and this guy will be in state. But at any rate, we're going to talk through, what I want to do is read back to you Sarah Jackson's story. I've been in touch with Sarah, and we've talked about all this previously, not me putting this on the podcast necessarily, but her story, and I've shared it. So we're gonna talk through her story one more time, and then we're gonna show you the most recent video from Cameron Giovanelli. Now, if you want to see the video fairly unedited, I did flip it so that the subjects are in different places. I wanted his wife to be front and center, and I did try to colorize it a little bit because it was uploaded from I think it was taken, either uploaded with a place with bad signal or taken on a phone that just didn't have good signal. Either way, or good, I'm looking for a good camera. I'm gonna share that with you. If you want to see a fairly unedited version, it's on my personal Facebook. And if you have difficulty at all navigating, just message the podcast. I'll get that to you. But what I'm going to share with you right now is a highly edited version. And again, it's not taking anything out. It's only adding to. So the version I'm about to share with you, I'm going to pause it at a couple points, and I say that in the video as well, but I'm going to pause it at a couple points just to draw your attention to facial expressions, to body language, and just do a couple other things when it comes to vocal modulation and things of that nature inside the video. This is only, I think it's a 2 or 3 minute video. It's a very brief video, but there's so much that's happening inside those few moments of the video that, man, it boggles the mind, everything that I see going on. Now look, this whole podcast, a lot of you, not a lot of you, but a lot of people could quite possibly narrow it down to what would be referred to as an opinion piece. Okay? And I get that. I get that this is my opinion. It is shared by a lot of people, though. Okay? So understand that. But also, my thoughts on this video I'm going to share with you. I keep pointing here. It's not here. My thoughts I'm going to put on the screen for you. But my thoughts on the video are just that. They're my thoughts. Again, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a criminologist. I've dealt with a lot of things in those arenas, but I'm not certified or licensed there. So if you want to debate me and argue with me, and however you want to do it, that's fine. And I've had people on my Facebook that have debated and argued about things when it comes to pedophiles a lot lately. But when it comes to his wife, I completely understand those of you that are looking at her and thinking, man, like, she is going through it and she's the victim here. And I do not dispute you on that. You're not going to catch me disputing you. But I will tell you this. Excuse me. I'm close with Sarah. I'm close with her family. I'd like to think that. And the things that this woman, that have been shared with me, that this woman has said about that family, and I understand why she's saying them. This is self-preservation. This is fight or flight, and they surely flew. But I understand her reasoning for the awful things she said about Sarah and what Sarah said about her husband. I get it. But when there are other victims that are verified, when there are police reports, when there are investigators, at some point you got to stop posturing, stop defending the guilty, and just say, look, I'm out. I'm done. And I understand that between Stockholm Syndrome, which seems to be very apparent here, I can't say that, again, I'm not a doctor, between the very apparent possibility of Stockholm Syndrome and surely the way she's been treated much of her life. I don't know when she got into the IFB, but I'm sure at a young age, but the way she's been treated much of her life as a young adult, and absolutely as this man's wife, she is 100% conditioned to just go along and do what she's supposed to do. I agree with that fully. Please understand that I absolutely agree with that. She's conditioned to do what she's told to do, and she's been beaten down over the years, whether that's physically or emotionally, or however, all the above, I don't know. But this woman is absolutely, whether it's physically as well as emotionally, it is definitely emotionally a battered person, and I understand the sympathy for her. I really do. I promise you that. But again, and I also understand that she doesn't have, and this isn't a dig at her, it's just the truth. It's the way women are conditioned in this cult. She doesn't have the resources to say, look, buddy, I'm out. While she could do that, and that is a possibility for her, when she looks at the behemoth of a task that's going to be for her, there's daunting, and then there's that. Like, that is really, really difficult. I know women that have done it. It's not impossible, but it absolutely looks that way to you. So all that to say, I do have difficulty sympathizing with her, but again, and that's just me, okay? Please understand that. So for those of you that can sympathize with her and do feel like, man, she's just going through it, and this Stockholm Syndrome is just, it's apparent, and look, I get it. I get where you're coming from. I get where you're at. I want to make that very, very apparent, very clear, but I also have to say that I have difficulty finding sympathy for her because I've talked to a lot of women that have escaped these situations, escaped their husbands, and it hasn't been easy or really even good for them for most of that journey, but it's been what they knew they needed to do. And this woman, you look at the look on her face, she knows this is not legit. She knows, I don't know if she knows she needs to get out, but I hope she knows that somewhere in her mind. Okay, at any rate, I'm going to show you the video, but first, I'm going to have a drink of this. And then, I'm going to read you Sarah Jackson's story one more time. So as I've shared this video of Cameron a few times, I've had quite a few people let me know that they are not familiar with the original story and its origin and what exactly what did this guy do, right? Like what's going on here? So I want to read you Sarah Jackson's story. Sarah Jackson says, I have overcome a lot in my 28 years. I have been through things that make me sick to my stomach, and I have come out stronger. There has always been one thing that I wasn't allowed to deal with. I've held on to one thing in my past that happened to me 12 years ago that I have searched and searched for a way to let go of. Why now? Well, now I'm a mother. I will do whatever I can in my power to not allow something to happen to my son that happened to me as a 16-year-old girl. So this is my story, and with this, I let it go. I was raised in a way where you respect your elders and your leaders. Your pastor in the Baptist faith is pretty much right under God. That's very true. Or he is God in many cases. You trust him. with everything. You go to him for guidance, advice, and wisdom. He is someone you can count on when your parents aren't around, right? Someone you, as a child, idolized, for lack of a better word. There isn't a better word. That's absolutely what we do. I did too. At 16, I was forced to grow up too quickly when I was put in a position no 16-year-old girl should ever be put in. Things were taken from me I will never be able to get back. When those things were taken from me that should not have been taken until marriage, I think you guys understand, I was left with, don't tell anyone, we take this to the grave. Cameron Giovanelli, my pastor, abused his power and leadership into creating a physical and emotional relationship with a 16-year-old girl that carried on her entire senior year of high school. I have kept quiet for 12 years because I am not a spiteful person. This kills me to type. As she's typing it out, I cared about him, but I also cared for my innocence, which was ripped from me by someone I was supposed to trust. But as a 28-year-old mother to a perfect little boy asleep up in his crib, I will do whatever I have to bring awareness so this never happens to another child. I have worked through a lot in my past, and this is the last thing I need to let go of to fully move forward. It was not okay, it is still not okay, and it will never be okay. Listen to your children. Watch for signs: withdrawn, depressed, distance, and get to the bottom of the cause. Always be a listening ear and an open door for them to run to. I am so grateful for the support from my parents, husband, family, and friends that have been there for me these past few years as I've searched for a way to let go of this. And with that, I move forward with my life and my family. And as I'm reading this, I realize that I have neglected to read some of the testimonies from victims from Mr. Jonathan Young, who is now incarcerated there in North Carolina. So we will get to those shortly. But now I'm going to show you, we'll put here on the screen for you, the video of Cameron Giovanelli proclaiming his innocence, having his wife stand next to him. I'm going to break down, again, my opinion, but I'm going to break down what I see in the video. Feel free to add what you see, and of course, if you have a dissenting opinion that's different than mine, I get it. These are opinions. But people are going to be locked up for this stuff. So please pay close attention. Tell me what you think. And again, this video, the next 3 or 4 minutes at the most, will be taken up with, maybe 5. Will be taken up with this video. But I'd like you, now you know Sarah's story. She's talking about Cameron. She named him here. And I'm going to show you the video of him. And the progression of this was, I should mention that as well. I'll be brief. But the progression of this was, she and her the former pastor, or the current pastor of the church where this formerly happened, reached out to North Valley Baptist Church, Golden State Baptist College, Jack Treber. I know I'm over enunciating, but it's for a reason. And the ministries there, which I point is just not far down the road from me, and they reached out to those ministries there and got no response, and basically forced their hand. They were trying to. And I don't fault them for it, but they were trying to handle it amongst themselves, amongst the churches, and eventually, because Treber wouldn't respond, and when Treber did respond, it was, you can see it if you need to see what he said. Let me know. Private message myself, private message Stuart Hardy on Facebook, or Not Your Mother's Podcast, and we'll get you a video clip of Treber, he's right here, of his statement in regards to Cameron Giovanelli and what had happened, and Sarah Jackson and all that. But his statement wasn't remotely sufficient, and Sarah went to the authorities to pursue legal action, and within days, Cameron, before she pursued legal action, to my knowledge, he was let go, and they said it a different way, but he was let go from the church there, and Cameron even says it a different way in the video, but he got fired, like that's what happened. And he got let go from that church, that school. I'm sorry, he was working for the college, I believe, Golden State Baptist College. And then now he's more recently relocated to Jacksonville, Florida, to work with Greg Neal, and we will talk about Greg Neal as well and the things that he's guilty of also when it comes to sexual misconduct. But without further ado, here's the video and my breakdown. Kind of in the midst of it, I pause a few sections just to kind of give you an idea of what my thinking is and how things are going in the video. So here's my breakdown of Cameron Giovanelli's refusal, whatever it is. But like, this is Cameron saying, I didn't do it.
Hello, folks.
This is the first of several freeze frames you'll see in this video. I want you to pay close attention to the female subject's facial expressions. That's why I've done this. So on the next few, you're going to hear heartbeats and you're going to see some arrows pointing. Please pay close attention.
I'm Cameron Giovanelli. It's my wife Sarah, and I just wanted to come to you by way of this video. Number one, to
back this clip up just a little bit. You'll see that someone behind the camera is telling her to smile. That's extremely unnatural. Let's continue.
Say that the allegations made against me.
In breaking down this video, I realized I'd need to pause this a few times, but please pay close attention, especially to Cameron's hands. You're going to notice him using a lot of hand motions, and I know a lot of us like to talk with our hands, but in a statement like this is absolutely a method of deflection.
Are not true. They're false. That being said, I do want you to know, because I think some are wondering what's going on in our life. I resigned from Golden State Baptist College, not for any other reason.
Back that up real quick. Listen to him say, not for any other reason, one more time. This is a vocal modulation tactic that many IFB pastors use to make themselves more believable, to draw you into the conversation, and it's something that you'll hear a lot more of throughout this video.
Then to take away any confusion, anything that might cause people to have to alter decisions because they were wondering about the college. We wanted the college to be able to move on. Golden State Baptist College is an incredible place to train for the ministry. Pastor Trieber is leading that ministry full steam ahead with a vision until eternity. It's amazing, an amazing ministry. And we didn't leave with anger. We didn't leave out of frustration. We left with hurt because we love those students. And we love Pastor Trieber. We love North Valley Baptist Church. Yet, those situations sometimes detour us and they take us down a different path. Our focus is still on Christ, and we're excited to see what God's doing. Not always excited the way He does it, but with these false allegations, God has now brought us to Jacksonville, Florida. I mean, who would have ever thought? Jacksonville, Florida, where we have the opportunity to serve alongside of Pastor Greg Neal and his family and his church, and we're excited. We're getting ready to go into missions conference. We're excited to see what God's doing here. And I just wanted you to know that God is still on the throne. We still trust Him. We're still soul winning. We sit in church. We absolutely love church. I mean, we're still amening. We're still smiling. Our marriage is good. And we're just excited to see what God is doing. Our kids are doing fine. And can I tell you, the cause of Christ, it's wonderful. We're contending for the faith. There's always going to be different obstacles. But I do want to say, on behalf of my wife and I and our children, to the students of Golden State who will watch this, stay in the fight. Serve God all the days of your life. Keep your eyes focused on Him. We fight against the devil. We're not fighting against people. We're serving the King of Kings. And as He alters our course, and as He re-alters our path, we trust Him. Why? We trust in the Lord with all of our heart. We lean not to our own understanding, but in all our ways we acknowledge Him. And here's His promise: He shall direct our path. And that's what He's doing for us. And there's great days ahead for you. There's great days ahead for us. And may I say to you on this Independence Day, happy 4th of July from the Giovanellis. But I also wanted to just let you know that we're doing fine, and God's blessing, and we're staying in the fight. And we can't wait to see what God has in store for our future and for yours. Thank you.
All right, so that is my breakdown of what's really going on here in Cameron Giovanelli's statement, what he's saying, and more importantly, how he's acting and how his wife is reacting to what he's saying. And again, make what you will of it, dispute me on everything, that's fine, but everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I did put this on my Facebook page, and I also talked to people that have degrees in criminology, people who work in the justice system, and people who have degrees in psychology, and we were all very surprised, or at least intrigued, by Sarah, his wife's reactions. the contempt that we saw in her face, whether that be contempt for Cameron, for the victim, for the situation itself, for the IFB. I can't say what it's contempt for. I have my ideas, which I'll share with you later, but that is the face that I'm seeing over and over. So what I did was, obviously I slowed a few things down here. I spoke to my opinions on it. Again, please understand, I was an assistant pastor in the same exact cult that he was in for a couple of years, and I grew up in it, and I'm steeped in it, and I was taught it my whole life. Everything he's doing, from vocal modulation to his, weaving the scripture into the end to make it more, I don't know, biblical. But I know what I'm talking about is what I'm trying to say. Now, to say that people are going to disagree with me is an understatement, and that's fine. In fact, I have good friends that don't feel the same way that I do about his wife, Sarah. And I understand that. I get that. But I did put this on my personal Facebook page because I wanted people to take a look at his wife and how she's responding. Like I said, I see a lot of contempt there. I'm not saying that I'm the end-all be-all and that's all it could be is contempt. But to say that there's no contempt, I think is an impossibility. So again, this is my opinion. That's all this ever is. But I want us to all have a voice collectively and be able to talk about this and shoot my ideas down all you want. That's great, especially if it's something where I feel like we're on the same team and when we want justice for the victims. I don't have a problem with anything you say. Now, if you're on team justice for the perpetrator, then we're going to have some problems. Okay, I'm getting off track. The next thing that I'm going to show you, which some of you aren't going to like, and I get that because I don't really like it either, having to post it. But it really plays well. It's an interview with a man that you're all going to know. And it's an interview that points out a lot of the same facial expressions and body language that we just saw. Listen, I'm not trying to get political. This is a political figure that's making his statement about sexual indiscretion. So you probably already know who it is. But I understand if you want to engage in political discourse and this opens that up for you, more power to you. I won't be doing that. But it is a striking similarity between what we just watched from Cameron and what we're about to watch. So check it out and let me know what you think.
But I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never. These allegations are false, and I need to go back to work for the American people. Thank you. I'll say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never. These allegations are false, and I need to go back to work for the American people. Thank you.
So like I said, I'm sure some of you may or may not appreciate that clip of old Slick Willie we put in there, but I think just because of the public platform on which that occurred so many years ago and the fact that it's kind of a landmark case for what we're dealing with here, I thought it was important to include that. So if you found that distasteful, I understand. If you really liked it or if you hated it, I understand that too. But I just wanted to put that in there for context. And there's so much to say about the video. I'll probably say it in the comments section. I don't know. I've said a lot about my personal Facebook profile already, but there's just so much to say that I can't say a lot more than I've already said, just because I feel like it's going to be redundant. But it's indicative of exactly how this all happens, how it all goes down. This is the man of God, and this is his wife standing next to him, and this is exactly how this plays out. She doesn't say a word. She doesn't do anything. Yes, there are those of you, I'm sure, that are like, look, this guy just watched too many episodes of Lie to Me, and he's just way too worried about people's vocal tics and the way their lips turn one way or the other. And you're not wrong. I've watched a lot of Lie to Me. I enjoyed that show. But really, like, compare the two clips and tell me you don't see a lot of similarities with the way he shifts his body, the way Bill purses his lips, the way Sarah purses her lips. I think they're very, very similar. So again, feel free to disagree with me. I get it, but I just wanted to share that with you. Kind of contrast the two and let you know that I personally see a lot of similarities. But again, like I said in the clip, the vocal modulation, Happy 4th of July from the Giovanellis, like, what is that? Like, when do you, it's kind of like, it's, in my opinion, to try to make it a little bit humorous, which maybe I shouldn't, it's kind of like if you were talking to someone that announces ball games or something, and that's how they normally talk, or if that's how Bruce Buffer normally talked, in the kitchen. I don't even know how to make an example. It's time for scrambled eggs. I don't know, but like, if people who are announcers and stuff like that, that's how, this video, this is him, refuting these claims. This is him saying, I'm a man of God, I'm right, what I did was right, I'm justified, I didn't do anything wrong. If you really want to appeal to your people, which he doesn't care clearly because he's right no matter what he says, but if you really want to appeal to a broader spectrum of people, don't put on your preacher voice, don't put on your Nike t-shirt, sit down inside with your wife, let your wife speak too. And there will be people, well, she could have if she wanted to, or she made her own video, whatever, I don't care. That's, what is it, 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 seconds? Like, there's no reason for her not to say anything. And it's not that she needed to defend him, but if she's not going to say anything, then guess what? She's non-essential to this video. Really, she isn't essential to this video if she's not saying a word. I'm not bashing her. I'm just saying, why else have her in here? Okay, so there's just, I don't know. There's so many things. I know I'm frustrated, but there's so many things to say about this video. And I'll go on for another 3 or 4 hours. Some of you may appreciate that, some of you may not, but I'm not going to do it. But I'm just saying, there's so much to say about this video, and there's so much that's wrong with it. If you really want to sit down and have this kind of heart-to-heart kind of thing with a video, don't put on your preacher voice. Don't stand on your tippy toes for any portion of the video. Don't have your wife just sit there and mimic you. Like, be real about it. And people, let's be honest, there's a reason he can't be real about it. And we know why. He's guilty. I'll say it. And I've said it before, and a lot of people have said it as well. He's guilty. It's just a matter of time. So that's the video a lot of us have been talking about and sharing, and it has been deleted. Greg Neal posted it. Of course, Cameron posted it as well, and they've both deleted it within the last 24 hours. Maybe a little bit more than that, but within the last 2 days and last 48 hours it's been deleted. But luckily, we've downloaded it. We have friends who have downloaded it, so it's not going away anytime soon. And unlike other videos that people have pulled down from the internet after they made their accusations, after they said what they had to say, we're not going anywhere. This stays up because this is important. This is a movement, and we're making noise, and we're letting people know that we're going to be listened to, mostly by law enforcement. So now I want to go into, I do want to say more about Cameron. I probably will in the follow-up here, but I want to go into just briefly talking about Greg Neal. I've got a news article on him that we need to talk about. So Cameron went from California to, wait, I did that wrong. Cameron went from California to Florida, to Jacksonville, Florida. He's relocated to, I believe the name of the church, I need to double check, is Berean Baptist. I've got friends who live in Florida who are familiar with the church, and it's interesting. It's interesting, guys. So Greg Neal, I'm going to read you about him. This is his new pastor. In fact, they're putting on a conference. So if you remember the last episode, we talked about, who do we talk about? Alan Donnelly and Bob Gray Sr. Both of those guys are going to this conference at Greg Neal's church in the fall, or in a few months, which is the fall. Isn't it interesting that they both came out? This is very interesting. I'm actually, as I'm saying this, I'm just connecting this. It's interesting to me that not only are they going to this conference in the fall, they also, before this, I don't know if it was before this conference was announced, but surely before it was announced to the public that Cameron was going to Jacksonville via this video that was posted this week, or last week, it was definitely, these guys already agreed to go to this conference. There's a video on Alan Donnelly's Twitter. Bob Gray is tweeting about it as well. We got 100 free hotel rooms for you, most likely with hookers inside them, and that's just how it goes, unless you're bringing your wife, or if your wife's fine with it. But I know I'm trying to bring levity. It's not working. I get it. The conference, though, it's interesting that he's going to be at that church for that conference. He talks about a missions conference in the video. I don't know if that's the one and the same. But it's just interesting that these guys came out to defend Cameron, and now they're also going to a conference where he's suddenly, all of a sudden, on staff. So I found that very intriguing. All right, let me read to you about Greg Neal. of Berean Baptist Church. And this is an older article, and again, the statute of limitations is covering this guy. I don't know anyone. I know, I haven't talked to anyone in specific about the statute of limitations, but it's something that I come across so often with these things that it's become very, very frustrating for me to hear that phrase anymore, unless it's something that's been thrown out. So, while investigators, there's a videotape. This is all videotapes, I love the age of technology. Let me just read a little bit here. Along comes the story of Greg Neal, who apparently thinks it's a swell. Again, this is from Stuff Fundies like, so they have their own spin on it, and they're right. Thinks it's a swell idea to shoot hidden video of women changing their clothes. While investigators said the tape does not show Neal handling the camera before and after, two women are seen undressing in an area where they had reasonable expectation of privacy. By the way, it was his office. The state's ability to prosecute a case of video voyeurism expired 1 year after the offense. How handy is that? While the evidence of his crimes of voyeurism in 2001 is overwhelming, unfortunately, the statute of limitations has expired. Assistant State Attorney James Kalaw wrote. Consequently, there is no way to legally pursue prosecution for these acts. This is not unlike what happened with Jack Hyles in the 90s and the affairs that he absolutely had with staff members that sat in choir across from Beverly Hyles, by the way. This is not unlike that, where it was something that people brought up and then it got squashed, and then they paid enough money to get it moved so that no one was talking about it anymore, and now he's still the pastor. Now he's the pastor. What is that? Detectives say the VHS tape was discovered in 2002 when church employee Brent Bartlett, is a name I know, was viewing a group of tapes of basketball games he said he was given to by Neal. The secretly recorded tape was included with the basketball tapes. The report said Bartlett took the tape to Neal's father, Tom, and the senior pastor of the church, Tom Neal, and he was told the matter would be dealt with in the appropriate manner. Investigators were told that both Gregory Neal and Tom Neal denied to the victims and to the church members that the videotape ever existed. Both Neals refused several attempts to be interviewed by investigators or provide statements. They continue to be co-pastors of the church. It's crazy, isn't it, guys? It's crazy. Look, I don't care. Here's the thing. Like I said before, I was an assistant pastor for a little while myself. In all of these instances, in Cameron's instance specifically, if something like that is brought against you, my good friend Josh Owens made a great statement on the post that I put up a couple days ago. If these accusations are brought against you and they're not true, I'm not saying it's going to be fun or easy, but man, wait it out. Don't run literally across the country because they're not true. These accusations aren't true, so I'm going to resign. He got fired. There's just no two ways about that. I'm going to resign and go across the country to a different church where that pastor is 100% guilty of videotaping women getting changed in his office. I'm sorry, there's not much more besides confessing your guilt. There's not much more you could do to prove to me that you're guilty than that exact thing. And then to speak to Greg and Tom, like, come on, guys. If I'm an assistant pastor and I'm accused of something like that, and I won't answer reports, I won't answer and I won't answer investigators because I know I don't have to. If I won't, not unlike Jack Scott did, when people would reach out to him, he would just berate them and use the Bible to say why women shouldn't have jobs, bullshit kind of stuff. Look, if that is not, if I'm accused of that and it's not true, I'm going to stay the course. I'm going to stick it out and let people, and it's not going to be fun, and then people are going to get mad, and I might even get fired, but I will stay the course and say, I didn't do this. I'm not going to run across the country. And by the way, if I did do it, how on earth could I expect to continue being the pastor of the church and the women that I did this to? Are you kidding me? That's just nuts. No, this is not the whiskey kicking in. It's just crazy, people. It is unreal that these men are still pastors of churches where they've done these things to their church members. What is that? That is just unreal. But again, I'm going to get into it briefly here, but that is how it works in these cults, in IFB and other cults that are similar to. I need whiskey to simmer me down. That's how it works. These men are not, they portray themselves as the man of God, right? You've heard that before. They're not the man of God. And for a lot of other reasons, they're not. They are God. Think about it. Only God could get away with something like that. And God shouldn't. If there is a God, God shouldn't be getting away with that kind of shit. Sorry, it's hard. It's hard not to curse about this stuff. God shouldn't be getting away with that. And these men of God absolutely need to be held accountable and be carted off to jail for these acts. But guess what? It's not going to happen. Not to these guys. So they think. But we're here. We're starting a movement. The movement's been started. I didn't start it. It's been going on a long time. And it's a matter of time before these guys are brought to justice. I won't say a whole lot about it, but I will say one of Jack Hyles' descendants at one point, if you wonder who it was, message me. One of Jack Hyles' descendants at one point was also on staff at Berean Baptist Church with Greg Neal. Take a guess as to who that was. Go for it. Anyways, so we're going to get into a couple more things, but that is the whole situation with Cameron right now. I just want to give you guys an update, and like I said before, we're used to a big hullabaloo, as they say, and all this noise, and man, he's going to be prosecuted and all that, and then it kind of dies down and simmers out, and then nothing. That's not what's going on here. I want you guys make noise. Talk about it. Talk about Cameron. Talk about Greg Neal. Talk about what kind of terrible people these are. I'm this close to heading down to Florida for that conference. I'm so close to doing it. I'm dead serious. If someone wants to fund that trip, I'm there. Let me know. If you want to fund that trip for me, you let me know. I'll get you the dates. I'll tell you where I need to fly out of. I'm there. We'll just put that little tidbit in there. But at any rate, it's just crazy. They're all in this circle. My mom's called it, I think she's called something like the old boys club, good old boys club or old boys club. That's what it is. That's what it is. It's these old white dudes that have been getting away with stuff for a long time, and they're going to keep getting away with it until we hold them accountable, but that's what we're here for. So now we're going to backtrack just a little bit. I'm going to talk about Cameron some more, about Sarah Jackson some more, my good friend, and I am also, but right now I want to take a break from that and go back to something I skipped earlier, and we're going to talk about the criminal in North Carolina, and once again, he worked for Firstborn Baptist Church in Benson. His name is Jonathan Young, and we read about it earlier. He's a Sunday school teacher, and he has been accused by his victims of gross sexual misconduct. That wasn't enough, sorry. What am I doing wrong? So, I'm going to read to you a couple of his victims' stories because I want you to understand how visceral, how real, and how atrocious. These aren't even the right words. Much worse words apply here, but I just want you to understand the gravity of what's going on here. So I'm going to read you some of his victims' stories. I won't be reading you their names. I won't be reading you anything that would give away who they are. There's a few of them that are fine with that, but I do want to be tasteful in the way this is done. And as I've said to those of you already that have given me your stories, please bear me a little bit longer. Give me some patience. Your stories will be told. It's very important that they are. I do want to cover these ones that are coming out right now, though. Keep our momentum going. And your stories are... Please know, my friends that have shared your stories with me, your stories, be they humorous or be they of a more serious nature, they're going to play a huge role in everything that's going on when it comes to bringing these people to justice. So thank you for sharing them. I will be sharing them on the podcast. The fact that every single time it has ever come up, so this is a victim talking about what Jonathan Young did to them, they investigated it, and the conclusion is always the girls tempted the men, no matter their age. We talked about, and she's talking to the sheriff, how the victims have been told they are damaged goods and made to feel like they were far less important than the men that did these things. And the first priority, was to make sure the men's good names didn't get tarnished. So this is a victim talking about the state of the IFB, really, and how this stuff works. The fact that when the wives would find out about the abuse, they would be angry with the girls. And I was slapped in the face by my abuser's wife. This is something I've heard often. And told she hoped I would die because she was pissed that I was being abused. I told her I didn't know what to do and I wished I would die too, and it still just continued. I told him, the sheriff, that through the years, when anyone speaks out, they get a complete character assassination, absolutely, from the people still at the church. And it is always said that the person is just trying to tear the church down. Yeah. I showed him the character attack that has happened to me on Facebook, on social media the last few days from people at that church. I gave it everything I had. He said that the church needed to be stopped, and he would talk to someone. This is just happening in the last couple weeks, okay? He would talk to someone and call me tomorrow to see about using the report in the situation with Jonathan to show that these types of things are common there, and they have known it's been happening for a long time. The report I filed will remain on public record from this point forward, and anyone can see a report that was filed against him for sexual battery. That's on the money, and I didn't read all of her statement. Just if you're watching, I want you to know I didn't read all of your statement, but I did read some things that I think really speak to the audience here and to people that want to come forward and need to come forward. Everything she said is true. And it's not just true, it's par for the course. When a victim's when a perpetrator's spouse finds out, that is the most common thing that happens. I've talked to so many women for this kind of situation and others that have been slapped across the face by leaders of independent fundamental Baptist institutions. You don't do that. You just don't. And I'm not saying it was okay in 1950, but I'm saying it happened a lot more, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, it happened a lot more than men slapping women across the face. But you don't do that. And I know this is Jack Hyles' whole thing, the 1950s nostalgia and white picket fence and fellas with the pleats in their pants and the dimples in their ties and ladies wearing the frickin' poodle skirts and doing their hair a certain way and, all that jazz. I get it. I get what you want it to be. But it's not 1950 anymore, and it's not okay to abuse people in this way. It's just not. So anyways, moving on, I'm going to read you another victim's story or recount, but that's just the thing, guys. It's crazy that these people are still acting in this way, but they are, and they think it's okay, and they think they can continue, and they cannot. I think I'm going to file criminal charges today. 3 more victims from the time I was there, so not recent, contacted me and asked me to speak up on their behalf for all of us that were abused back then. Again, we're still talking about Jonathan Young and Firstborn Baptist Church. I feel really nervous. Here is what he did to me. This is what was done. Basically just making me sit on his lap, sometimes while in his underwear, putting his hand on my side, then moving them around to my breasts, rubbing himself on me in his underwear, kissing me on the cheek but accidentally missing and hitting my mouth. I'm sorry, guys, this is very grotesque, and I'm not saying this against the victim. It's crazy. He would also hit me and cuss at me, tell me if I spoke against the man of God, God would kill me. I got to stop it right there. Let me make an edit so I know where I stopped. Isn't that something out of a weird, nasty scene out of a Tarantino movie? Really, really. And I'm not saying anything about Quentin. I'm just saying, isn't that literally unreal? I'm the man of God, and I'm going to molest you, and I'm going to do all these things to you that are just awful, gross, sexual things that no adult male should be doing to any teenage girl. That's just, But I'm the man of God, and I'm going to hit you and cuss at you. Tell me, just think about that. How opposite as far as actions and character is that for a man of God? That's just so opposite to the God that I would like to believe exists. That doesn't work. I don't get that. That's unreal to me. I'm not saying it didn't happen. It absolutely happened. But just this is the kind of stuff that goes on. And look, a lot of this stuff happened a while ago, but this stuff is still going. This guy just got arrested. These people don't just stop because of the day and age we live in. They continue because of the power that they have. This guy's just a Sunday school teacher. Can you imagine what the pastor was getting away with at that church? And the pastor knew, because this isn't the first time this came forward, because if you look at the original article and the news story, he says, we thought these charges were dropped. I can send you a link to it. The pastor of Firstborn Baptist Church, I believe it is, says, we thought these charges were dropped. He already knew about it. That's failure to report. He would tell me my sins are visited on the children, so I was cursed, and that's why it was okay for him to treat me that way. He'd call me names and tell me I was stupid. Nobody would ever love me. Tell me I would never be able to accomplish anything because my family was trashy. He was just a mean person. I cried myself to sleep every single night for 6 long years. I'm terrified that if I speak up, it would be just dismissed as no big deal. But it's a huge deal to me and has really impacted my life. A few years ago, it got so bad I wanted to die. It would crush me if authorities didn't consider it a big deal. And by the way, the authorities do consider it a big deal. That's why he's being held on $1 million bond. It's just unreal, you guys, what these people are getting away with. They're continuing. Yeah, this guy's locked up. But there's, look, the IFB, and I'm not saying it's just the IFB. I understand it's other religions, other cults as well. But the IFB is what I know and what I'm coming after. The IFB is worldwide. You've got people in the Philippines and Mexico and you name it. There's an IFB church there. Russia, wherever. China, there's a big work in China from First Baptist Church. I know people that have been on the mission field for them in Ghana, Africa. I know them personally. One of them was my bus captain. I don't know what he's done. I don't know. I'm not saying he did anything, but I don't know. Next story. Next recount. And this is from someone, I know this person, I know her sister, and we've talked about this. When I was, sorry, I've got a fly in here. When I was just a young age, a man that I trusted destroyed me. He took everything from me, leaving me empty, broken, scared, alone, and dead inside. I knew it wasn't right, but was too scared to tell anyone. In fear, I would just be hurt by someone else considering I had already been threatened. I did not know what to do or where to turn, so I shut down. For years, I battled hidden depression. I wouldn't eat, wouldn't talk very much, had nightmare after nightmare. Every time someone would ask me why, I would just reply, I don't know, but I did know. One day my depression hit me like a tornado. It sent my world into a spinning, and I saw no way out. It sent my world spinning, and I saw no way out. Everything was so dark and damp. I sat in my room as a 14-year-old girl telling myself, you'll never be a normal person, because that's what was told to her. No one will believe you. That was also told her. He will hurt you again. She knew it because he'd done it before. You will never trust anyone ever. You have to live this for the rest of your life. You're miserable. You're worthless. You have nothing. And as I sat there, things flooded my mind. I decided I would take my own life. I saw no other way to escape the pain but to kill myself. Therefore, I wouldn't have to live with the dreadful memory. I wouldn't have to tell anyone. It would all just be over in a few short seconds. I went to a revival at my church for the next week with this on my mind. Just get to the weekend and I can end this pain. So I got through the week and the weekend and the next week. Though the memories never once left my mind, the nightmares didn't go away. For one single night, the pain inside didn't end. But I would just hold on to what I had left until one day it hit me again. And that's when I knew I had to tell someone. I had no right to feel the pain I was feeling. Such strength in these words. I had done nothing wrong, so I told my parents. Everyone was hurt and confused. Little did I know that 1 year later, the awful, cruel, low-down, good-for-nothing human being that took everything away from me would be finally put behind bars again. We're talking about Jonathan Young in North Carolina, Firstborn Baptist Church. Yes, I will still have to live knowing he hurt me. Still have to live with that awful memory of those days. I know that he is and will continue to get what he deserves. And many of you out there will stand up for him and support him. And by the way, I've seen the Facebook comments, and they have. But one day, you're going to wake up and realize he isn't who you think he is. As much as I would hate it, someone you love may have to speak up and testify about it before you believe it. And that's the truth. But when that happens, your world is going to be crushed like so many others. You need to stop protecting this sorry person. He's evil, and you need to realize that. And then she makes a call out to the victims, and if I can, personally, I'd like to extend this to any victim out there that's thinking about coming forward, that's finally realizing, hey, I've been a victim of something like this. If there's anyone else out there who's been hurt and abused, don't stay silent. Speak up. This is not from me. This is from a victim. I will stand and speak with you. I know what you're going through. don't be scared. So these are all stories, people that are recounting what happened at Firstborn Baptist Church and Gateway Christian School at the hands of Jonathan Young, who is now being held on a $1 million bond. And I'm almost done, but I wanted to say a couple more things, drink a little more here, but. I want to talk to this whole thought process of why did you wait so long? Why are you just coming forward now? If it's really true, why did you wait 20 years? I've read to you from victims. If you can really, this is my opinion, but if you can really put yourself in those victims' shoes, and you can really, if you're not a victim yourself, you can really put yourself in their shoes and put your mind in the place that their mind must be in after trauma like that, sexual trauma at that age, and you can really say to them, why would you wait so long? I really think that you need help. And I know that's a condescending thing to say, I get it, but I really think you do need help. Because if in your mind you think that you can put yourself in their shoes and you still have something like that to say, I don't understand what's going on in your head. And that's the God honest truth. I just don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me how you can have that mindset and you can be in that place of, why would you wait so long when they're telling you this happened to them as a child. By the way, listen to what the person said who said, I wanted to kill myself. There are other options, I know, but from what I understand, it's that or you repress those memories. It's one or the other. You got to push them down. Can you imagine what the victim's saying? I had to live with this every day. I had nightmares every night. Do you want that, or do you want to repress it and not have to deal with it and put it out of your mind? Now, it still affects you. 100% it still affects you. But you're putting it out of your mind so it doesn't affect you as much. Or you blind yourself to the effects of it so that you can just continue on with your life. How do you function like that? How do you work a job and have children and have relationships like that? And don't take this the wrong way, please. Anyone that's gone through this, I'm not berating you with this. I'm just saying I cannot physically, mentally, emotionally put myself there and understand how you move on with your life from that. You obviously have, and so many of you are doing so many amazing things, and you're incredible people, and I love you all. But I'm talking to the people that want to say, why would you wait so long? Or why are you accusing this man of God of this thing? It pisses me off so much. These people that are coming forward aren't coming forward to ruin someone's ministry. That is not what this is about. This is them dealing with those demons so they can live their lives, so they can move on, so that they can have some peace, so they can have some kind of resolution to all of this. This happened to them when they were children, in most cases, teenagers in some cases. This is my really what I'm closing with is, if you can really put yourself in their shoes, and by the way, there's more stories that I'm privy to that are coming that are going to blow your mind, this isn't, I'm trying to pump the podcast, no, I'm just telling other people's stories, and I'm giving my narration of them. Never, ever, ever would I seek to control the narrative of a victim's story. And by the way, when you see people on Facebook or any other social media network, or they talk to you in person, and you get that feeling of they're controlling the narrative, they're controlling the story, how it gets out, who finds out, what media source it goes to, that's a red flag. It just is. So be aware of that. If someone needs to control someone else's narrative, control someone else's story about how they were wronged, that's a problem. That's a huge problem. Doesn't mean that person wasn't a victim themselves. It doesn't mean it doesn't necessarily mean they're a bad person. It's just a red flag, something that there's some kind of an issue with them as well. Anyways, I'm getting off track. I just wanted to take a couple minutes. I've talked to the victims on many occasions, and today I want to make a message clear to the victims that we're here for you, that we want to help you, that we would give anything for you to come forward and talk about this, even if it's in private. Let's start the conversation. Let's get you on the right track. Let's get, not that you're not on the right track, but let's get you whatever help we can get you. We want to get that for you. That's for the victims. We want to help you so much. And it's not, like I said, it's not just me. There's a network of people that I will introduce you to that would give anything to be there for you and help you. But I do want to take a moment and another drink to speak to those that are supporting people like Bob Gray Sr., like Greg Neal, like Jonathan Young, like Cameron Giovanelli, like Jack Trieber. There are still people that support Jack Scott. Those of you that support Alan Donnelly's statements and Bob Gray Sr.'s statements. Look, it doesn't matter to you how mad I get at you. It doesn't matter to you how angry I can get or what curse words I can use. And you'll say it matters, and you'll say, well, he's just a bitter... I am bitter. He's just a bitter man that left the church, and he's just trying to destroy the church. And you'll read that's what the victims are saying as well. That's what I was told, is I'm going to destroy God's work. I'm very close to a victim, and I won't give details, but I'm very close to a victim who, when she confronted her abuser, in fact, she told her abuser's wife, this is what's happening. And the abuser's wife came to her and said, the abuser's wife went to the abuser and said, told her husband, hey, this is what this woman is telling me, this girl is telling me, and she brought it to this girl's abuser. This girl's abuser found her and grabbed her by the ear and dragged her into the room where his wife was and yelled at the girl that he was abusing and said, "You are ruining my ministry." And I quote, this is from the most reliable source I could ever get it from. Some of you know who I'm talking about. Just, what? What ministry? What in the world are you talking about? You don't have a ministry. You're a pedophile. It makes me sick. It's unreal that some of you can still sit back and say, well, let due process prevail. I don't have a problem with due process, but due process is happening right now, whether you like it or not. When it comes to Cameron Giovanelli, when it comes to these other men that are already locked up, Cameron is not long for being outside of jail. When it comes to all of them, due process is happening. You can be on the right side or the wrong side of history. And a lot of you, I'm not happy about it. And you don't care, obviously. But a lot of you have decided I'm going to be with the man of God, and I'm going to support the church. And I have been told, and I know it's true, victims' parents have gone to leaders in the church, and they've left meetings feeling like, man, that guy wanted me to choose between my child who was victimized by the church and his church. How can I make that choice? Obviously, it's my child. Are you kidding me? It's just unreal to me that some of you can still stand there, sit there on your computers and type on your keyboard and say anything against a victim. From Bill Cosby to Harvey Weinstein and on down the line, Jack Scott, Jack Hiles, Cameron Giovanelli, all of them. There's more to come. You can sit there and you can say, how dare you attack the man of God? That's beyond ludicrous. I don't care what man of what God he is. If he's touched a child inappropriately and you believe the Bible, then you need to check out what Jesus had to say about millstones being hanged around people's necks and then being drowned in the sea. That's what it comes down to. Really. You guys love, I know I'm talking to the haters right now, whatever, the trolls. But you guys love to make your statements and base it on biblical dogma. And Bob Gray Sr. for sure. And Alan Donnelly, man, classic misquoting and taking scripture out of context. Alan Donnelly's terrific at taking scripture out of context, and his blog shows an Old Paths blog, I believe it is. But if that's your thing, if you're really about Jesus and you're really about God, and this is all, this is all super important to you, that the Lord be glorified and that the church be resilient. If that's really the case, then you need to read what Jesus said about pedophiles. It's really simple. It's really plain and clear. And in America, we don't have the death penalty for pedophiles. But in the New Testament, that's what Jesus gives. So think on that. And look, I get it. I get it. He hasn't been, it's only accusations and it hasn't been proven. But over and over and over and over again, these things have been swept under the rug. And we're tired of it. It's not happening anymore. Victims are coming forward. We're giving them a voice in every way, shape, and form that we can. They're going to the authorities. They're not going to some broke-down law firm. They're not going to their pastor. They're not going to the man of God to solve this. They are going to the police. And while our justice system has its flaws, it can do a lot better job than just writing a letter to say, my bad, I didn't mean to molest you. It can do a lot better job than just shuffling a man who is absolutely guilty of child molestation to a different church with a Christian school so he can molest more children. Justice system can do a better job, and it is doing a better job. And it's being put to work right now on these men. So, I know I got dramatic at the end. Thank you so much. If you watched this long, thank you for checking out Not Your Mother's Podcast. Thank you for watching the my breakdown, my analysis of Cameron Giovanelli's video. I hope that I get some feedback from that. I hope that you have something to say, whether you agree or disagree. I want to hear what you have to say. And again, even if you're still in the cult and you don't want to call it a cult, I get it. If you're still inside the independent, fundamental Baptist movement and you completely disagree, feel free to speak up. I can't promise you what the followers of the podcast are going to say to you, but I can promise you you'll get a response, for sure. So I do want to close with one last thing, just one more time. And I feel bad because this whole podcast I've called people victims, and I know you guys are more than that. I know you're defined as mothers, fathers, siblings, cousins, amazing people, awesome, incredible people. I love you. I've talked to a lot of you. Some of you are in my family. I get it. So I want to apologize just briefly to say, like, you're so much more than a victim, and you're not even, I wouldn't even want to term you a victim moving forward. I want to say, you're a victor, and you're working hard to, to bring to light, bring to justice these atrocities. So please don't feel that I'm demeaning you by calling you that, but I'm so proud of all of you that have come forward for whatever that's worth. I'm so happy that you're sharing your story. As difficult and painful as it is, you are, I have to curse on this one, you're badasses. And if you haven't come forward yet and you're thinking about it, we're not saying, oh, come forward, you have to, you got to do it. No, we're just saying, start the conversation. Start the conversation. It doesn't have to be with me. It doesn't have to be with my mother. It doesn't have to be with any of these support groups. It can be with someone you love and trust. Maybe not in the church, okay? But someone you love and trust, or if it is me, that's fine. Talk to me. We want to talk to you. We want to hear what's going on. We want to help you. I get how this can be seen as, well, Stuart's just trying to pump his podcast, and he's taking all these stories and getting famous. And I'm not getting famous, by the way. I'm also not getting paid for any of this, which I'm fine with, because this is a cause. This isn't about a paycheck. So I understand the naysayers. I get it. But really, if you want to share your story, I want to hear it. And the world wants to hear it. And those of us that are survivors, that have gotten out, that have cleared our heads, that have made our own way, we want to hear it. We want to help you in any way we can. So again, thank you. Like I said in the very beginning, I am so, so, so grateful for every single one of you that's taken the time out of your day to track down a story and send it my way so that I can share it with the world, so people can hear what's going on, what has been going on, what's continuing to go on, and most importantly, what we're doing about it, and how we're making a change, how we're making a difference, how we're making the world a better place by bringing the bad guys to justice. Thank you all so much for your support for Not Your Mother's Podcast. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and as always, feel free to give me any feedback, leave a comment on the post, shoot me a message, let me know what you thought, because I want to hear it. Thanks so much.